And Brian Orlando with my friend Ron Goldstein, political pundit, political strategist, and really with what's going on with Iraq right now, it's going to be interesting to me to see how the Democrats handle moving forward in the midterm elections. If you were trying to get your candidate elected, how would you handle Iraq right now?
Oh boy, wow. That's like the hardest question you've ever asked. I'm serious about that. How would I advise them? Well, it depends on the district if you're talking strictly politics. And the problem I have is the reason why I'm hesitant is because it's always been a dictum that politics was always left off the front door when it came to foreign policy. Whether you were a Democrat or a Republican, you always gave deference to the president, no matter if you agreed with him or not. Maybe you'd fight with him behind the scenes, try to influence things behind the scenes, but you never went in front of the camera. You would never publicly counter the commander-in-chief. And now, it's, with the prison where it's all politics all the time, and during Bush's presidency, I don't think the Democrats did that a lot. They voted for him. They voted for the Iraq War. And they didn't agree with it, but they voted for it because they thought, well, he's the commander-in-chief and he must know stuff that we don't know.
Right.
That's the way I think of this war. I think that I have a lot of confidence in President Obama. I know a lot of the country doesn't because his stature has been whittled down by all his critics. But I happen to have a lot of confidence that he's doing the right thing. He doesn't want us involved in another war. We were involved in 2 wars, and both of them were longer than any other war, like 3 or 4 times as long as World War II and the Civil War.
And we're still paying for it. We couldn't afford it then.
Right. So he is doing a balancing act. He's not trying to make it Fortress America. By the way, that was always a Republican policy. He's not trying to make Fortress America, but he knows that we're war-weary. He knows we can't be everywhere. So, and we don't have the money. We're trying to climb out of an economic collapse of a few years ago. We're still trying to climb out of that. So he's trying to do a balance act between seeing that this is blowing up, and they keep saying that we're going to see you in New York, and it's very alarming. And I understand that the NSA is overreached in going after people's emails and stuff because they're sufficiently freaked out about possible terrorist acts. But I think that he sees that, but at the same token, he does not want to put troops on the ground. And whatever he says, it's going to be bad because he's either not doing enough or he's doing too much. So getting back a long way to answer your question, I think if it was a Democrat and it was not like a completely Republican district, I would say I give deference to I would say just what I just said. I give deference to the commander-in-chief. It's a balancing act. There's no good things in this. This is every day gets worse and worse. I mean, I've been obsessed with the Syrian war and what's been going on there, and then you see this thing in Iraq. Not totally unpredicted, by the way. I mean, we knew as soon as we got out that there was going to be a war between the Sunnis and the Shias. They've had wars. They had, and I thought, well, this wouldn't happen if Saddam Hussein was there. But then someone pointed out that Saddam Hussein was responsible for killing 1 million of his own people. So
the Saddam Hussein situation, again, nor that I'm sticking up for him, but we put him in power for a reason in the first place.
Well, you could say that ISIS is doing the same thing. They're trying to instill fear and terror in people's heads and hearts so that they allow them to do whatever they need to do. But at least Saddam Hussein's foreign policies were not so crazy, except for the Kuwait invasion.
Sure.
But he didn't have it in mind to create the entire world into an extreme Islamic image, where ISIS wants to do that. It's really weird because it's so complicated. I mean, you've got the Shias, and we don't want to look like we're taking their side because Shia is Iran. It's Syria, and it's a lot of the guys that we have been our opponents for the last 20 years, 30 years. And you don't want to alienate Saudi Arabia, who's probably our biggest ally. Mm-hmm. And they are Sunni. But Sunni was Al Qaeda, and it's now ISIS, and it's just there's a no-win situation. They're going to have a war there. The Shias say that they hate the Israelis the most. The Sunnis say they hate the Americans the most. But first of all, they have to fight each other for land, for supremacy of Syria or Iraq or Pakistan, or it's tiring, exhausting just talking about it. I think about it a lot, and I think how many people over there just long for the day when all this war, all this misery, all this horror goes away and they can live their lives again. And it's not like their lives are great. I mean, there are people scrambling to make money, and it's hard. The earth is not very good for cultivating things, and it's tough to make a living over there. But how they had homes and they had a roof over their head, and they weren't in refugee camps, and their relatives weren't all killed from barrel bombs, and their other relatives heads were cut off. I mean, it's got to stop. And I guess the only real answer to this is that the states have to get together with Russia, and we have to get together with China, and we have to get together with the European Union, and maybe Brazil and a few other countries that have money or have armies, and we have to just figure out, maybe like a post-World War II Yalta type conference, and think, okay, let's decide this for them so they don't all kill each other. What's going to be Shia and what's going to be Sunni, and nobody's going after America, nobody's going after Israel, nobody's going after Russia, and nobody's going after China. I mean, they've got terrorist problems too. And this is going to end, and and just try to bottle these people up. It's the only answer.
Sure.
And we are so far away from that. It's really bleak right now.
But do you think the American people would accept that answer if your candidate was running for office?
Half yes, half no. Some people don't want to do anything. Some people want to get. I think that's a sensible answer, but it's not sensible in that it would happen.
Sure.
The possibility of happening is like 1%, maybe less. So it's really bleak. I would point to my candidates and say, look, I would lament that in our modern times we are picking apart the commander-in-chief and his choices. I think we should stick behind him and really reinforce that we want this balancing act. We want this violence to stop, but we don't want to get involved in yet another war or go back to Iraq.
You can catch Ron's writings at rongoldstein.politicalpundit.wordpress.com. The way he speaks is the way he writes. Very opinionated, very honest, and at times very bleak. And these are the times where we really need to be paying attention.
And these are the times we should be honest.